What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Throwing Salt. It's good that you're here this week, and we're excited about this pod because, again, it's another tearjerker. You get your tissues because, again, we have a lot that goes on behind the scenes sometimes with our minds, our emotions, our spirits, and we ask some questions sometimes like, God, are you with us? Are you here? And he always lets us know sometimes either in a still small voice or the sun kissing your face. We're going to get into that today. Today is about overcoming our struggles and how we do that and what that looks like when we're in the valley and how do we get out of it. Well, today we hope that we give you some tools to do that because it's going to be really, really great. And we want you to come in. So let's go. Let's go to the pod and let's talk about how we overcoming struggles. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Throwing Salt. We're glad that you're here again this week because we say it every week. And oh Lord, you're beside me. How did you get here, Houdini? What happened? Why are you beside me today?
Cause
we gotta guess. So y'all know when we beside each other, we gotta guess. So
yeah, because we're definitely not that close.
See, and then y'all be wondering why I be going and why this Bama got on balanced this morning because I thought it was Balenciaga, but it's balanced.
It's called. It says balanced. Thank you.
Balance what? Balanced in what? Weight and what?
At first I thought it said Balenciaga. I was like, I got me a shirt for $40.
See, you thought a Balenciaga was $40.
See, you gotta watch, man, because they try to sell you a dream when you get to them stores.
See?
Oh, it looks very nice on you side.
Oh, based on the accent, I know you was getting scammed. Lord, wait a minute, that's not right.
Hold on,
that's
that
not
don't
right.
say balanced, not
See?
Balenciaga. Just give me the shirt and let me go.
See, and you
then
bought
50% off too.
And it was still 40.
No, it was 20.
Oh, okay.
Oh, because I'm not paying 5.
Okay.
I don't pay 5. No, I'm paying.
And you walked out and was like, "This is great.
This is nice.
This is nice. This is nice."
You know, listen, I'm on a budget.
Why?
I'm going to Disney World soon. I told you.
Oh my gosh, we tired of hearing about Disney. I can't wait till you go. Please go and bring something back because I'm tired of hearing about it every week.
The most expensive place in the world is Disney World.
No, it's not.
Well, that's what they say.
Who says this?
People.
Who?
Everybody that look, put it in the chat.
Oh,
if you've been to Disney World, how expensive is it?
Okay, why wouldn't Dubai? Is Dubai not expensive?
I'm not going to Dubai. Well, I might.
Okay.
I do want to go. I want to see some camels.
Okay, you can see those. It doesn't have to be Dubai.
But it's more in that country than it is here.
Okay.
Then they have their own little private islands too.
Do they?
Yes. It's a morsel of sand.
Morsel.
A morsel. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, where I really want to go though, I want to go to the Great Wall of China.
For what?
Just to see if I can walk over it.
Boy.
And not the whole thing. I mean, I've been getting my steps in, so.
Oh God, you just be saying anything. I would just be like, your brain just be in there like, say this.
I do, not because I've been looking at Chinese culture, man. They are dope with their stuff.
Really?
In Japan, bruh, it's like it's 2050 over there.
Right.
Just by looking at their little, like, their trains be just going past.
So when that song comes on, I'm proud to be American. You don't sing no words.
At least I know I'm free. That's all I need to say. At least I know I'm free.
And it was written by a Canadian. That's what. See,
we always stealing something.
See, we always stealing. You always stealing. I ain't stealing jack.
Talking about America.
I'm like on Martin Pam. I ain't seen jack.
Listen, they gave them maize. They gave them syphilis. So
listen, the Lord.
It's like that's not even exchange. We supposed to have been a hug with this thing. I want to just. Okay, let's move on.
Let's move on. Okay. So we got a guest. And we about to introduce our guest. And the thing is, so y'all know, like for Throwing Salt, it's definitely about our overcoming through testimonies. We don't just bring anybody on, but those who really have testimonies that we feel that is going to be able to help our listeners to say, listen, you going through stuff, I'm going through stuff, we all going through stuff, but how do we overcome? How do we look at things differently? How do we do it with Jesus Christ? Because as y'all know, this is a Christian podcast. So, everything derives around him. Even sometimes when we get mad at him, listen, even when sometimes we don't feel like he's there, we always go back to the source because he always finds a way to let us know that he'll never leave us or forsake us. And so our guest today is very dear to my heart because it's my cousin. And his name is Dr. Jeffrey Woodson. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about him because, so let me just be clear. That's what happened when you talk to family. I asked this man to give me a bio. I got 3 lines. And one of them said 31. What does that even mean? I don't know.
31 questions.
31 flavors.
I don't know.
I mean, what does it mean? So I'm assuming it's the age. So he is 31 years old. Growing up, he was an awesome football player. We used to go to the games.
Yes, we did.
Listen, and he was wearing that helmet.
Uh-huh.
Because, he had a big head back then.
Jimmy Neutron.
It was out here, but he's grown into it. You'll see in a few minutes. And he did track. He was a football player. He has a awesome degree. Like he's in the education field, and he's just really outdone himself. And we're so proud. And then we'll talk about a few things. He also got going on with his business and stuff like that. So we're just really excited about that. But what's standing out and why we kind of brought him on today is that, we know that he's been through some things and some things that we haven't been through that we can be able to talk through. And that's what we're actually here today to kind of talk about is what happens when you got struggles going on and how you overcoming those where you still got this amazing bio and you realize that it wasn't of your own, like the Lord did it. Right? How do you still go to school? How do you still push through when you're struggling? And, a lot of this may not have to be directly through, I was reading the scripture every day, but also too, how that the Lord was able to help out. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's put your hands together and show your love for Jeffrey Woodson.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate that intro.
I love it. So, we're going to just jump right in because, again, like we talked about before, overcoming certain things and, still being on top. And I know sometimes people, they belittle themselves and say, man, I ain't really out here like that yet. But, in other people's eyes, based on what we know that you've gone through and what you've been through, for us every day is the Lord is on that boy's life in real life. And, some people maybe couldn't have gone through or gone, overcome. So, I really just want to let you kind of tell your story a little bit and just kind of let us know how is Jeffrey today? How did it all start? What is it looking like? So go ahead, bro.
Well, it all started way back when, So, I come from a house, I'm the only child. So it was me, my mother, and my father. Yeah. We were real close-knit. We shared a lot of jokes. And, growing up, it was like I was split between 2 worlds. My mom was real conservative in the church, holds back a lot. And my dad was the complete opposite. He was out there. He said what he had to say. He wore it on his sleeve. So I was kind of in the middle, and so I appreciate both sides of my parents and qualities that I gained from both of them. And then, around the age of 11, at 11, I lost my father. But my mother, she stepped up. That's what I always think about when I look back at my life now at 31. The last 20 years, they've been challenging and difficult, but my mom, God blessed my mother with a lot of love and grace. Yeah. You know what I mean? A lot more patience than myself. Or even my father. My father was straight to the point. My mom, sometimes I would look at her and be like, Ma, come on.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
But, now that I'm older, I realize, especially now that I'm a teacher working with kids, things don't just come. You don't make them happen. Yeah. Sometimes you have to grow them. You have to explain them. Sometimes you have to wait, trial and error. You can teach a kid something, you can teach someone something, and they'll still mess up because that's who we are.
Yeah.
So, you know, to have a parent like that, to have someone that was graceful with you, that's a big part of, you know, the small amount of accomplishments that I do have today.
Yeah.
You know, that I do have is my mother, and seeing someone that is full of love and full of grace, but at the same time going through their struggles, they have every reason to be bitter, to be angry. You know, to say, you know, you're 25 plus. You know, it's not much I can do for you, but you know, having someone like that, you know, it helps my mindset. So, you know, I owe a lot to my upbringing.
Yeah.
You know, in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point because again, I know you were saying that you were split between two worlds, and that's almost like reflective of like what we are in this day and age, right? We're split between two. We love God, and sometimes you know the enemy tries to have his way, and we're pulled multiple directions, and it's only one that's going to win. We talked about before, like making choices, and really only one is going to win. But the good thing that you said in your story just a few minutes ago is that how your mom, who loves the Lord, showed you him, right? And it wasn't just because she told you, right? It was about showing. Like she showed you that grace. You was thinking, hey, why not we pop off? And she was just like, listen, there's a different approach to this. And that's what I think it relates to our journeys, even in this Christian walk, is that the Bible gives a template of how we can walk through, be angry and sin not, be mad but don't act a fool, right? Not go into sin because, you know, there is sin there. And I think, you know, like you said, it wasn't like she wasn't with her struggles, but, you know, at least her being able to show you that.
Right.
I know you want to say something to that, yeah.
Right, no, that you're completely right. You know, completely right. And you know, just seeing that, you know, having a single parent, you see them go through their struggles.
Sure.
And then when you see them go through your struggles, you know, you go through your own struggles.
Right.
Because you want to, you know, you want to be XYZ. I know in my personal life, I always wanted to try to compensate for whatever loss. So I wanted to try to show my mother that, you know, I can do this. You know, everything that you told me, I can take it and I can run with it. And, you know, I can take care of you and I can do all of these things. But I really feel like God showed me, like, look, you know, I'm God. I'm in control.
Yes.
And I give you ability to do, but you're not a savior. You know what I mean? And that's a hard pill for me to swallow as being, you know, an only child, because you feel like, you know, I don't have any brothers or sisters. Like this is on me to make sure my mother is good. And when you have a good parent, you feel obligated. Like,
Yes.
like, man, you know, she did things for me that I can't repay. But you have to mature and understand that, look, it's a process. You know, you're not a ball player. You're not, you know, doing something that, you know, you can necessarily take care of your mother right now. But if you're there for her, show that you love her, help her out when you can, you know, and make your mother's life better than it would be without you. You know, that gives me some type of peace, you know, and it helps me, you know, while I'm growing. And
So did you feel like that you had to, after losing your dad at an early age, that you had to grow up and be a man quick?
Yeah, I did. I did feel that way. But to be completely honest, I was very immature. You know what I mean? Like, very immature. I think that's the thing with a lot of guys out here, especially when we don't have our dads. We feel like, okay, that makes us a man because of the hurt and the pain. But men are taught, right? They're taught to lead. It's not because I've experienced this pain that I'm now a man, right? I'm just a really hurt boy, right? Like a really hurt boy. And so with this anger that I'm carrying, I want to present myself like a man. You know, I want to come off as a man, but I don't know.
True.
So
True.
in my life personally, growing up in DC, you know, a lot of dudes are into different things.
Right.
Being in sports helped me a lot. Going to the high school that I went to, you know, I went to Gonzaga, that helped me a lot to stay out of the way, out of trouble. But I would say what helped me the most is I went to Virginia State University, and going to
Shout out Virginia State.
Shout out Virginia State.
Yep.
You know, it's a lot of people doing great things from Virginia State.
Yeah.
But going out there in that country setting and just being by myself and being alone, I remember, you know, just being sick for the first time away from my mother,
My goodness.
or away from family. You know, having to drive yourself to the hospital. You know, having different accidents happen to you, and you just having to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Is different. Like, and I had an uncle that was in my life, still in my life. He taught me, you know, even though I lost my dad, he's my father's brother.
Right.
I spent a lot of time with him, and we butted heads a lot, you know, but work ethic, I would see him get up every day, every morning, early. He would come home late. You know, my uncle taught me a lot. You know, he taught me how to work, and that's one thing that I will say about him. He taught me how to work. He told me, look, I know what happened to you, but it's not that it doesn't matter. You still have things that you have to do.
Listen.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
yes.
you can either sit here and say, this is my story, or this is my story. You know what I mean? You can make it into something, you know, impactful, or, you know, you have every right to sit here and say, you know, this is what happened to me, and that's why I'm going to be that way.
Yeah.
But Jeff, do you really want that?
My goodness.
And so, of course, you know, I didn't want that, but I had to develop a work ethic.
Yeah.
And I think being in Virginia helped me a lot. You know, even things like I learned how to fish, I learned how to shoot. You know, I didn't learn how to hunt.
Okay.
Because I wasn't out there like that. But you know,
Right,
just
Hey,
learning,
Yogi.
you know, learning different things about myself. Having to cook, you know, every day.
What you cooking?
I mean, so when I was out there, I was cooking. I mean, basic stuff, chicken.
Okay. Was it done in the middle?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. Just making sure it wasn't raw.
You know, I've gained weight since I've been back home.
This is gained weight,
Brother.
Yeah, I mean,
My God.
If you I thought you was gonna fly away when you walked in. Man.
no. When I came back, I was slimmer. When I came back from school, I was slimmer. But I mean, in the last year, I've gained like 17 pounds.
Congratulations.
Well, you know, us skinny guys got to stay together. You know,
What?
it's been a long path, but
Anyway, I want to go back to something you said about a hurt boy, because I really think that was profound. Is that, you know, you were saying that you weren't mature, but again, you still were very young. But then how you were saying that you were showing up into things, and how, you know, it's like, you know, taking this hurt and making you who you are, or are you showing up as the hurt boy in that space? Because I think some people also too may be going through that. What was some of those attributes? How did that show up? How did that hurt boy show up in relationships? How did that hurt boy show up with family? What did that look like? So people who may be dealing with this may see that, oh, I'm doing that same thing. Like, how am I, dang, do I need to talk to somebody about this?
Right. So for me, you know, everyone deals with it differently, but with being the only child, what it looked like for me was, in hindsight, being really withdrawn.
Gotcha.
Like, if there was something that I wish that I did more in college, it was become more social, you know, talk to more people. I was really transactional, you know, and I think that's from being hurt so much or being let down.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a situation where I'm trying to talk to you to, you know, see what type of person you are or whatever.
Right.
It was like, if I don't feel like I'm getting anything from it, I don't really need to know you, you know, and that's immaturity.
That's profound.
You know. I used to always think to myself, especially when I was in college, like, Drake came out with the song No New Friends.
Yes.
Right? And I was, at that time, I was probably 19 years old. And I was singing that song. And I thought to myself, I said, if I meet nobody new from 19 until the rest of my life, I'm like, my life is going to be boring. You know what I'm saying? Not only boring, but it's not even going to be fruitful. Like, you know? So, you know, I had to come to that realization. But what it looked like, you know, honestly, and I've, you know, had to pray and repent, you know, I've heard, you know, some people, you know, quite a few people that, you know, had my back. Yeah. Like intimate relationships and just platonic, you know, people that, you know, wanted to be my friend. You know, when you feel less of yourself, when you're going through something, it's hard to even accept love, you know? And like, I know as a child, you know, you all know as a child, like I was always laughing and giggling.
Yes.
But like, as I grew up, you know, it's like, it stopped. I felt like my smile stopped because, you know, self-inflicted pain. It wasn't all just things that happened to me, but it was self-inflicted pain. And so going through all of this, you know, at the same time, and it's just, you know, you in relationships, you push people away because you feel like once you find out the real me, you're gonna leave me anyway. You know what I mean? Like once you find out things about me, and I don't have all my I's dotted and my T's crossed, you're gonna leave me anyway. And then being in a smaller, close knit family, most of the people, I would say 80% of the people that I run into, especially when I was younger, they didn't necessarily know about speaking in tongues. They didn't know about spirits. Like, what is a spirit, right? And so trying to talk to them, they just like, you cool, but I don't get you. And I can tell that they didn't get me, you know. And it's like, you know, I don't want to spend all my time explaining to you who I am. You know what I mean? Because honestly, as a teenager, you don't really understand the spiritual warfare. You know, you understand what your mother's taught you.
Yes.
You may have been in services where you've seen demons.
Yes.
But you know, when you get out there and you try to articulate to someone, like,
Right.
yeah, someone can be heavily influenced even to the point of possession.
Yes.
And it can be controlling their thoughts and their minds. And you're talking to a person of the world.
Yeah.
Especially when you're not in your word, right?
Say it.
And I wasn't. It's hard to you know, they see you doing one thing and then they say, well, why don't you go all out and do this? And I'm like, well, I know I sin, but I don't sin that much.
Right.
You know what I'm
Start
saying?
making concessions for it. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. That's when you know, all of that hurt is coming in because you know you wrong.
Yeah.
I shouldn't do this, but God, I'm doing this, but I ain't doing that, God.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't doing that.
So you put your measure of sin.
Exactly,
Yes,
right?
yes.
When God doesn't look at a measure of sin, he
Yep.
looks at it as just
Sin.
Exactly.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so you become self-righteous, you know, you tend to say things like, you know, like Kendrick is saying about Drake, not like us.
Right.
You know, no hate to Kendrick, but I always say Kendrick, he's good. He's a great guy. But when you're really in this faith walk, you understand Kendrick is the same as Drake.
Yep.
same people.
They are entertainers.
Yep.
Entertaining.
Yeah.
And I hear Kendrick say things about God all the time that are not true.
Yeah.
And because he says it with such conviction and it sounds good on the beat, people are like, oh yeah, he's solid. But him and Drake have the same sins.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
They are in
We
the
all.
same industry and they do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like saying Drake is a little bit more out there.
Right,
than Kendrick.
right, right.
But you know what I'm saying? If you either lukewarm is lukewarm.
Thank you.
You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Thank you.
So
It all tastes the same.
right.
To God.
Right, to
Yeah.
God. To
And a
God.
lot of people don't understand that,
Yeah.
but to God, lukewarm tastes the same.
Yeah.
He's still gonna spit you out.
Yeah.
Because you are not coming up to his what? Standards.
Yeah.
And you denied or you declined to make a choice if you would be hot or cold.
Yeah.
Right.
He said, I'd rather you be either one.
Right.
But because you got divided loyalty and you want to be lukewarm,
Yeah.
I got to spit you out.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and that's where a lot of people think, and you're so right about that, what you said. A lot of people think, and I used to feel that way.
Yep.
I used to feel that way,
I was
that
getting ready to say, yeah.
I ain't murdering nobody,
Right. Right.
but you lying,
Right.
you stealing,
Yeah.
you bearing false witness of people.
Yeah.
What's the difference of that than a person that killed somebody?
Yeah.
You still killing me with your actions.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you may even hurt me more than you think you have. Because, I don't sin like that. And that's a lot of people in the church world now. Because I don't sin like them, I don't drink, I don't smoke. But you are a gossiper.
Right. Yeah.
And you are a jealous person. You got jealousy all in your heart.
Yeah.
You envy everybody. And the thing is like, and you're right about that. Just because I don't sin like you don't mean I don't sin.
Right.
Right.
This is wild.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's how we try to justify in our minds. I know, speaking for myself, that's what
Yeah.
I try to do to my with myself, and
Yeah.
even like practically speaking, just like being honest in relationships, like being faithful to people, giving them your word, and then just trying to, especially being younger, like trying to create a mental block in my mind where I know I said this, but this is how it is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't really care. And sometimes I would stop and think to myself, like, well, if somebody did this to you, how would you actually feel if you knew about it? And then I would just quickly tell myself, like, it's not even about that. You know, it
Right.
is what it is. And I knew that wasn't the right thing to do. But, you know, that's how all of it,
But that's how
you
your
know.
pain interpreted it.
Right.
Yeah.
And your pain
Yeah.
interprets things differently.
Yeah.
I don't interpret pain like you interpret pain. And your
Right.
pain doesn't interpret things like. So what I've learned is I have an only child, right?
Yeah.
One thing I have learned about her very quickly is that she's okay with playing by herself. Because usually she don't have nobody around her. So I'm internalizing this right now. Is if she don't get what she want right away, she's going to move by herself. Because I'm seeing it that when she don't, let's say we say something to her, the first thing she tries to do is walk away. And I'd be like, well, why she, like her mother would come down on, she'll walk away.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to being by myself anyway.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, gosh. And then my mother said, you got to get that girl a sibling because she got to know how to play with other people. Yeah, you're right. Because now I'm starting to see things as you being an only child,
Right.
is that how they interpret things as being the only person. They got to wear everything on their sleeve.
Yeah.
They got to do everything. So I feel like if I got to do everything, then I might as well be by myself then.
Right.
Well, I think that's a good point that you both brought up. Is so I would ask you, how are you now that you see that? How are you mitigating that? Like, when there's a confrontation and she knows that she's alone or she's the only child and she walks away, do you tell her to come back so
I
we
always
can
tell
talk
her to come
through
back.
it?
I always tell
Because
her
I
to come
think
back.
that if we as parents or friends and we see that, well, again, we're talking about accountability as well here on the pod. If we see these things because of somebody's upbringing and we still just allow it, then we're letting them know that it's also okay when you're like, no, you have to face these things even if you were alone. You have to deal with it even if you're alone.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest with you, and it's just it's crazy that we talked about this. Every time she would do that, I would always tell her to come back downstairs because we're going to deal with this.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to feel that every time you don't like something, you run from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every time somebody gives you instructions, because you're so used to being I run by my own clock. I do whatever
Yeah.
I get to move, because you don't always get to move because you don't like something.
Right.
You don't always get to run because you don't like something.
Yeah.
Especially in relationships. That's where you take the biggest hit.
Right.
When the relationship doesn't look like the picture perfect thing that you was told.
Yeah.
Will you run? Will you hide?
Yeah.
And the thing is like, if you've been taught that since a kid, because remember, you only do what you're taught.
Like you said, yeah.
You only do what you're taught. You run and hide
Yeah.
when things get hard instead of dealing with something and making sure it's the best. And I look at that like that, yeah.
But this is kind of profound, and I'm gonna let Jeffrey jump back into this. But isn't that how Jesus Christ is looking at us, right? He's asking us to bear all, to be all with him, to not run, to stand in open arms, even if we're not perfect. But can't we? That's why it's always a transforming, like he said, of the mind thing. Because if you don't know how to receive love, if you don't know how to give love, if you don't know how to not be like you have to carry the weight of the world, then how do I know that I need Jesus? How do I run into someone's arms when I've never felt like I could ever just be me in a space, right? So how does he, which is why I think that it's also important that we say out loud that we understand that struggle. Because again, people just always feel like if you in church, just give it to Jesus. How do I do that? Like, I don't know how. Because again, sometimes I feel like there's cliches about do this, do that, do this, but it's never the tools of how to, or it's never like, hey, you haven't really given me other examples of what that looks like. I've never seen that. So what does giving look like? Because for me, giving may be, like you said, a part of me. It may be a little bit of me. I gave a little bit. That's it. My sin. When we're talking about measuring. So I don't know if you had something to say, but you got something to say about that.
It's hard to give when you always feel like you've been but things been taken from you.
Yeah.
It's very hard to give.
Yeah.
When you've always feeling like things have been taken from you, especially as a young kid.
Yeah. It's
From
shaping,
your situation, right? So I'm gonna ask you something. How, with losing your dad at a young age, affect your relationship with God?
So as far as my relationship with God, you know, you feel guilty sometimes when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because you know God is always been there for me. But of course, I question in a very selfish way. You know, you see people. I live in DC. You see people that are on drugs all the time. They're tripping out in the streets. You know, my dad passed away at 42, and you know, very selfishly, I asked God, you got all these people out here that seem like they don't mean that much to people. You know what I mean? People driving past them, they don't have that much family. You know what I'm saying? Like, why allow me to go through this? And why, you know, take my dad? And then I also think about a lot of other stuff. Like, why wasn't, you know, my dad able to, like, leave us something? You know what I'm saying? Like why, you know, why was the situation just like it was? You know, I feel like, you know, we went to Florida on that trip.
Yes.
And then when I came back, it was just gone. Like, so I'm sitting there like, all right, you know, at first I didn't realize what I had lost. So I was even say like at 11 and 12, it hurt, but it hurt because I seen everybody else crying. I was sad. But like when it hurt me, it was, you know, 21, you know, high school graduation, you know, college graduation, you know, starting a business. Yeah. Because I know my father would be like, man, my shorty out there, he doing his thing. You know, but like you think about that, you know. And I even thought about like me and my dad out there detailing cars, you know, washing houses together. Like, you know, he may not be, my dad would be like 60 now, 62.
Listen,
so he may not do much, but he'd be out there talking trash, you know.
Satan's heat.
Yeah. So it made me, you know, look at God like, I know you can do anything and everything, but will you do it for me? You know what I mean? Even though I know you're all powerful, like, do you care about the things that happen in my life, or do you care about my ultimate goal, which is to make it to your kingdom? Right? So like, are you an authoritarian God? Like, is it not about that and it's about the ultimate, you know, living forever with you? Or do you care about me like on an intimate level? And as I get older, you know, I've been trying to like, you know, learn more of God. And, you know, I've been taught that he cares about you on an intimate level. He cares. I mean, even if you break your arm, he cares about that. And that makes me love God more. That makes me care about him more, because I feel like, okay, like you care about everything about me.
Right.
But, you know, earlier in my life, because that happened to me, I did feel like anything could happen. Yeah. You know, I worried about losing the next parent. Yeah. You know, or losing anybody else. Yeah. You know, so
you went back to in Florida.
Yeah.
Bro, I was there.
Yeah.
I got the news before you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to hold the pain.
Yeah.
Because Grandma told us don't say nothing.
Yeah.
And we was just like, me and my brother, we stood there like, first of all, I was surprised she would tell us to hold that, because we was all having fun. Remember, the night before, we all out there joking till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Right. And the next day, it's like your whole world shift. Yeah. And I was like, God, like, how do I look this man in his face? Or look this boy in his face? Knowing something that's going to alter his life and not say nothing.
Yeah, like pertaining to God, and like I think the only person that knows this is my mother and Toya. Toya knows this. So like we took a road trip down to Florida, right? We didn't fly. So during the trip down there, when I was down there, that's when my dad passed. I didn't know. Family members had found out. So I was young, but I can sense. I remember, you know, my man, when we were younger, he was sharing, but he wasn't sharing his food. Right. And we went to Applebee's.
Oh, you knew something was up.
And it was Jamal was sitting in front of me, and my man was sitting in front of me, and I didn't have that much money to eat. And my man was like, "Here, man, you can have my food." And he pushed his plate over. I said, Nah.
That was the deciding fact. Like, dang, something ain't right.
And then Jamal just looked down at his plate, and I'm like, no, I don't want all of your food. I'll
Yeah.
take a little bit. You know what I'm
Bruh.
saying? Why you acting weird?
I was like,
And they just sitting there somber, and I'm like,
Right, what's
bro,
going
we in
on?
Florida for the
Right,
first time. Like,
right.
I'm like, maybe they tired. We have been in the sun all day. You know what I'm saying? So I'm eating, not thinking much of it. But, you know, on the way back home, nobody told me anything. I was in the back of the van. We were in the van, and I was asleep. And I woke up at maybe 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and they were still driving. And Toya was sitting right in front of me. And I said, I tapped her, and I said, yo, she's like, what's up? And the back of the van was dark. Everybody's suitcases was back there, and it was dark. And I was like, I'm like, I just had a weird dream. She was like, what? I said, I just had a dream that I was in Scripture Cathedral, and I was walking down the aisle, and my dad was laying in a casket.
What?
And she was like, don't worry about it. And she already knew.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and said, don't worry about it. That's just a dream. She said, you want me to sit back there and you can sit up here? I'm like, yeah. So I sat up there and she sat back there. And she knew. And when she looked at me, it was just like, you really just had that dream, and
yes,
God is preparing you. Like, I can't tell you because she couldn't say nothing.
Right.
But she was just looking at me and she was just like, you want me to get back there? I'm like, yeah. I got up there, and then when we got back to DC, we got back probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
My mother, she just always, full of life, jovial.
Mm-hmm.
She was happy to see me, but it was just a difference. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then that's when the news broke, and I had family there to support me.
Yeah.
So it just, it was a tough time because I felt like, I felt like my father couldn't break. I felt like, he had been to the hospital so many times. He had been through this and that.
Yep.
But then, it made me not mad at God, but it did make me feel like I'm not really that special to God. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm about to go through everything because my first 10 or 11 years, me and my mom and my dad, we did everything.
Yes.
My parents, they had, difficulties like everyone else, but we were always together. It wasn't a time where I had to go to my dad's house, my mom's house. Like, nah, we were together. They were married, we did football, we did events. And then when that stops, things change.
Yeah.
Like you started becoming more upset. And the way it changed with me was it went from, a small nuclear setting with my mother and my dad to now I'm living with extended family.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And we got an uncle that's, substance abuse.
Yeah.
So
that's facts.
I'm, Christmas time, my games are getting stolen, and I'm just beefing, because I'm not really respecting him like that, and you can't tell me what to do, especially when you just lose your dad.
Yeah.
You're looking at all the men like,
Yep.
you can't tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I got expelled from school.
Yeah.
I had to go live with another uncle.
Yeah.
I caused my mom, different hurt and pain because
You were going through
at
it.
that time, I couldn't understand my pain.
Right. Right.
I just knew that it felt good to do what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to do what I want to do, even to the point of self-destruction.
Yeah.
Because I was so immature, because I was this boy with pain, and, doing what you want to do makes you feel like, yeah.
Right.
But, yeah, I'm hurting myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Self-destructing.
what am I doing?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
during that time, I had to learn all of that. And then as growing up, right, as much as I love my dad, I realized that while he was here, he didn't show me the best examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was a good person, but when it comes to, your faith and building things, my dad was Catholic. So he was real traditional.
Yeah.
It was like a prayer, or it was like, it was something different. But, there was times where he would come to scripture, and, my mom would pray for him all the time. I believe that my dad experienced the power of God,
Yeah.
and you never know what he experienced on his last couple of days on his bed,
Right.
But I know that as much as I love him, I see a lot of similarities between him and myself. And I was just talking to someone just last night about this. in your 30s and your late 20s, it's a whole bunch of unlearning that you have to do. You know, like
Facts, bro.
jokes that I make with people, the way I talk, you know, sometimes it could be offensive, or it could be not right in a situation. And I really don't mean any harm. That's the way I came up.
Yeah.
I've seen people talk to each other way,
Yeah.
a lot worse than what I said just
Indeed.
now. But Jeff, you're elevating, and you're entering these new zones where these people are expecting you to conduct yourself in a certain way.
Yes.
Indeed.
And it's not that it's, you know, to the ignorant mind, you would say, well, I'm myself. I'm not bougie. I'm not.
Right.
It's not even about that. God is about
exactly.
elevation. And not just elevation. God said that he comes that you'll have an abundant life.
Yes.
So,
And it's so crazy that you say that, because as much as Jesus loved Peter, he couldn't put him in every situation.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
But he could put Paul in almost every situation. He had him in front of Agrippa,
Yeah.
the King Agrippa, and the governors of Rome. Why? Because I know you're going to represent me well, and you're not going to sound like a fool
Yeah.
in
be
front of,
hothead, yeah.
or be a hothead. Like Peter was like, I'm cutting off people's ears for you.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't put you in the meeting with one of them because they're going to kill you before your time.
Right.
So God has to show us sometimes of, you can't act like this right here.
Right.
Because number one, you still ultimately represent me.
Right. Right.
You ultimately represent me. So I can't act like how I would out there on the corner with y'all in $1 million meeting,
Yeah.
Right.
because I ain't gonna get the contract.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and the thing is, and I'm so, you so right about that, man. Interpreting, and I'm going back just to interpreting hurt, because I dealt with that.
Yeah.
I saw my father
Yeah.
give God his all. And I saw, sometimes I felt as if God left him.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So I internalized the hurt
Yeah.
that he probably never was even feeling. I felt it. So I said, what's the use of this thing if you give God your all and then he gives you nothing back?
Right.
I understand that 1,000%.
Yeah, those are real feelings, and that's what I'm saying today is that, you know, there are people that are going through the same thing and I'm feeling the same way. And what we're saying is that you have, I wouldn't say necessarily a friend, but there's a brother, what we're talking about, brothers and sisters in faith that feel the same way, but know that God can, right? Will he? Yes. If he doesn't, is he still able? Yes. Will we feel a certain way about the situation? Yes. But knowing that all the feelings that you feel, again, a lot of people say your feelings are valid. Yes. But also too, like what Jeff was saying and what you guys were saying is that there also becomes a shift in mind.
Yes.
Right? There becomes, Jeffrey has now talked about, we've talked about the hurt, we've talked about self-awareness though, right? How was I feeling and how did I interpret and what did I do and how was I immature, right? And then we talked about still questioning God, but then also saying that he's also been there. So, you know, it's the Paul. When you're feeling like sometimes in the story that you're in between multiple decisions. It's like, I know that he's able, but will he do it? And I know that he's a fixer, but can you? And, you know, and these things are still, you know, it's the seesaw of life because things happen. And so again, what we talk about is when do we get to a place, and I'm going to go back to you, Jeffrey, real quick, is that when you actually start to be given that all these things have happened, you've mentioned multiple stories, and I'm sure you can go even deeper, of loss, of being betrayed, of feeling a certain way, of being in a home with extended family, of substance abuse, of all these things. But when we look at Jeffrey's resume, he still is a college graduate. He still is a business owner. He's still standing. What was that turn for you? What made you in your mind say, I'm going to finish school, even though I'm expelled, right? Because I remember my brother said in one story, you can be a crackhead and a preacher in the same life. So you can be a hurt man and a college graduate in the same life. You can be a crackhead and a business owner in the same life. You can be somebody that doesn't trust, but somebody in one life, but also somebody that puts their whole heart and teaches about trusting God because of their storms. So for you, what was that thing that allowed you to now be who you're evolving still to today? Because again, obviously your story is not over. So what is it? What was the changes? How are we talking about? How do we overcome?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like it's not just one like big
Yeah.
bang. You know, it's a process over
Sure.
time.
Practical
You
skills,
know, I would say it comes with losses. The saying is true. You never know. You know, you don't know a good thing until you lose it.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And then when you lose people or things or positions, opportunities, they really sting when you can't get them back.
Right.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Sometimes
Yeah.
we live in an age where we're used to like, okay, if I mess up, I can get a redo.
Yeah.
But sometimes in life, some things come when they come. And if you don't capitalize on it, it stings. You know what I mean? So I know for me, I got tired of losing. You know what I mean? And especially I was losing because of me. I wasn't losing because of any type of, you know, outside sources. It was me that was causing myself to lose.
Yeah.
And I know that just like real quick, like personally,
Yeah.
you know, I've been healthy my whole life, right? And I was in school and I started getting sick a lot, right? Just like I could not stay healthy. And there was a lot of like upper respiratory infections. I was feeling nauseous, wasn't feeling good. So it just got to the point where, you know, I didn't understand depression and anxiety, right? I felt like I'm not depressed. Like I'm, you know, black people been had problems.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Right.
Like I'm just
Struggle
going
ain't do
through,
this.
right?
Right.
But I'm not understanding that I'm taking everything from even my early childhood. I'm carrying it through my teenage years. You know what I'm saying? Into college, like, and I'm just still going with it. Not, you know what I'm saying? Even like I never had proper counseling or therapy, any of that stuff. So I had to even grow up with that because I looked at that like, man, I'm not talking to no therapist.
Right.
Like, you know what
right.
I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had to look at that differently. But I remember I was at my job one day. I worked at a restaurant and I was eating a fruit snack and I broke my tooth, right? Broke my tooth on the fruit snack. Now I had my tooth chipped before because of football, right? I'm going somewhere with this story, right? I had my tooth chipped before because of football, and I know the pain that you can get from toothaches.
Yeah.
It could shut your entire day
down.
right? So I was nervous immediately when I broke my tooth. So I'm already going through these things, and then that just set my anxiety through the roof. So I had to hurry up and get an emergency extraction. I got that pulled. The dentist, she pulled it wrong, right? She wasn't strong enough. She was an Indian dentist, and her exact words were, she's like, I'm sorry. She's like, African Americans, you all have really strong bones, and she broke the. I kid you not.
Now you know.
She pulled half of the tooth, and it was the other half in there, so she had to go back in there and get the other part out.
Oh my gosh.
When she pulled that part out, by this time I had tears coming out my eyes.
Yes.
When she pulled the second part out, she said, I have to go back in to make sure there's no loose like shards so it can the gums can heal back properly. So she had to go back in there and make sure that there was no small pieces of tooth left, no fragments left. So I'm in excruciating pain, right? I'm not eating like that because I don't have money.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so the medicine that they give me is so strong. I go home and I'm throwing up and I'm nauseous and I'm in pain. And I'm by myself, and then I'm already going through all these different things, and I'm 3 months to graduation. I'm on the dean's list at this time though. I'm doing well, and just like my world just flips. I don't know what happens, but it's like to this day I just feel like I lost my mind.
Yeah.
You know, like I could not think straight. I became fearful of being in my room by myself.
Yeah.
Now, I'm my only child.
Yeah.
Our whole conversation been how I've been doing my
Right.
own thing. Doing my own thing just became super scary to the point where, you know, I had to call my mom and we would just sit on FaceTime for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And she was like, what's wrong with you? And I would just bust out crying. I had to come home for like 8-9 weeks in a row, you know, spending all the money that I worked for, getting on the train, coming back home every weekend. And I would get home on like Friday evenings. And then I would get in the house. My mother and my grandmother, they be sitting there waiting, and they be like, "You all right?" And I just bust out crying, you know. And I was cry for like an hour, and they would just sit there with me. And then when it's time to go back to school, I had to go back to school, and my grandmother was asking me like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like I don't know.
Yes.
Like I don't know what's going on with me. Like My mother was like, you know, she was like, you know, you could talk to me like, you not gonna graduate this semester? You're not gonna graduate? You know, if that's the case, we can work through that.
Right.
I'm like, no, you know, my grades they straight. Like, it's just, I don't know if I'm gonna live. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel weak. I'm sick every day. I'm in so much like pain with my mouth. Like, I just feel different. I don't feel the same. And, you know, I guess it was an attack from the devil, you know, and we talk about attacks from the devil, but like sometimes we don't really give people like the credit for what they went through. I'm not saying that like I want any credit, but I'm just saying like we don't understand the severity sometimes.
Yes.
Like when people say, you know, things, I know like in your life you saw someone get shot.
Yeah.
And I used to think to myself like before I've seen people get hurt seriously, I was like, yeah, my cousin, you know, he's tripping out off that.
Right.
But like I was tripping out off of a dental procedure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That just triggered my mind.
Yeah.
And now I'm feeling like, and then the toughest thing is going to the doctor, trying to explain to them what's wrong with you.
Right.
I had to go see a behavioral specialist. And she's like, so what's troubling you? And I'm like, well, when I bite down, it's different. And she was like, what?
Right.
And I had to explain to her, all right, look, I just got my mouth done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She's like, okay, well, your bite pressure may be different. Well, you may need to get this readjusted. And then I'm just looking at her like, I don't even know if it's that. It's everything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what is wrong with me. And I'm going to tell you, Jamal, I don't even know if you remember this conversation, Jamal, but I had came back to church one of those weekends when I was in school. And I saw you at church. You was like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And I was trying to play it off. And then we ended up talking for real. And I'm just like, bruh, I'm like, because you were telling me that you had been through this before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, young, can you just answer this question? I'm like, do you think I ever like smile again?
Right.
Yep.
That's how down bad I was.
I asked my mother that. I went through that.
That's how down bad I was. I said, like, be real. Do you think I'm gonna ever smile again? I said, I don't find nothing funny or interesting. Nothing. And then you said, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I understand it more now. You were like, yeah, you will. You were like, but the next time you smile, you're gonna smile in God. It's not gonna be just, you know, you're laughing. You're like, you're gonna smile in God. And I'm like, what does smile in God mean? And then when you learn to accept what's going on with you, and you know it's not going to overcome you and destroy you, you say, wow, I'm smiling in God now, because this is what Jamal meant. Like, I have the confidence and reassurance that God's going to get me through it. You know, but when you're young, you don't understand that. You thinking to yourself, like, what does smiling in God mean? Like my mother always say, give it to God. What does that mean? But then when you get to that point and you get past it, you like, okay. The only reason that I'm getting through this is because of God. So that's why I'm smiling.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
My goodness.
So that's what smiling in God means.
Listen. That.
And then you know, not the,
I was like,
you know.
I was like, dang, that was it. I was like, I knew we were getting there. I was like, Lord,
Yeah, not the pressing buttons.
But because it's real though. That's
real.
It's the reality. And the thing is, these stories is why I felt like this episode was super important, because people feel like, you know, when you bring people on your podcast, it has to be celebrities. It has to be somebody that you're looking up to. How did they get here? When you got everyday people, you have like us, you have everyday, like you, like me, is that we are also going through real things that we feel like, Lord, are you here? Do you understand? And then, but for the title of this episode, we're talking about how we overcome.
Yes.
If you listen to his story, it was like, it did not make, his uncle asked him a great question. It's like, is this the Jeffrey you want to be, or who do you want to be?
Who do you want to be?
And so when you change your mindset to who you want to be, there has to be a whole shift in thinking. There has to be a whole shift in movement, a whole shift in faith, because it's not who I am, it's who I want to be. And do I want to be victorious? Do I want to be strong? Do I want to not let pain and fear rule me, where I don't have any stable relationships, where I don't have any love that I could give, that I can't have a seed or a relationship and be able to show that same love? We're saying that it's possible. It's possible. The storms, the trials, the hurt, the pain, the almost we talk about self-infliction. We've been there. Trust
Yes.
me. I listen, when you
Yes.
like, listen, what's the point? Why am I waking up?
Been there and know God.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
And see, I've been there and thought I knew God.
Exactly.
And I was, and the problem that I had is I had a pride issue.
Yes.
Because I said, Lord, this shouldn't happen to me.
Exactly. Not
When
me.
to be honest with you, he said, why not you?
Yep. Yep. How you so different?
Nah, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I've been a person that's always been full of life.
Yep.
And I remember one night, this was 2019. I was watching, I believe it was 2019. I was watching Kevin Durant and I was watching the Golden State Warriors. They were playing a basketball game. And Steph Curry and Kevin Durant were going down the court, up and down the court. And it's like I zoned out while watching the game. And I saw them running down the court and I saw them bouncing the basketball. And I told you at that time, nothing was funny, nothing was interesting. So I thought to myself, I said, these dudes spend their whole life dribbling the ball, putting it into a net. And they get millions of dollars for this.
Yeah.
And I remember that thought because I love sports. I never thought like that.
Right.
And I'm like, psh. And I laid down that night, right? My air mattress had a hole in it. So I had
college struggles. Look, it's struggles out here.
I had to get on the floor. All I had in my room was a recliner.
Yep.
And I laid on the floor and I said, God, real talk. And it's crazy, this is how I know that my pastor has a relationship with God because he mentioned it in church.
Yeah.
This is the night that he was talking about. I was watching that game. I laid down. I said, God, I love my mother. I said, I do not want to leave her, especially after she lost my dad and everything.
Right.
I said, but I'm of no value. And I don't really want to be here no more. The only thing that's keeping me from hurting myself is I don't want to go to hell.
Exactly.
That's the only thing. Like, and I know that's forever. So
Yep.
if I do that, I never get a chance to rectify anything.
Right.
I'm like, but if you take me in my sleep, I'm okay with that tonight.
Yeah.
As long as I end up in heaven with you, God, please just take me. And it's like I laid down that night. I felt so like it's over. Like it's over. Like dang. You know what I'm saying? Like they might find me out here in Virginia. My family might be like, what the heck was he doing? You know what I'm saying? But what I'm going through in my mind, it was just so unbearable.
Yes.
To the outside, it'd be like, Jeff, you all right?
Right.
But like to my mind, it was unbearable.
Yes.
And at that time I was losing weight. I told you I was sick.
Yep.
I'm like, God, this is not me. Like,
Exactly.
and then that next morning, I woke up and the sun was coming through the blinds in my room and it was beaming right on my face. Like, so like to the, when you wake up and your face is warm.
Yes.
And I woke up and it's like the first thing like that I felt like I heard in my spirit was, don't ever ask me that. Like, you don't control this. Because I told God before I went to sleep, I said, God, if you wake me up, I do not want to get up. I said, if you wake me up, that means you have more for me to do out here because I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. I'm about to graduate. I don't have a job lined up. What am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, if I wake up tomorrow morning, it's because I have something else in my life. And when I woke up, I could just remember the sun being so hot on my face and me waking up. And before I could even open my eyes, it was like I had that thought. And maybe that was God speaking to me.
Yes.
It's like, don't ever ask me that. Whenever your end is, I decide that.
Yes.
And when I woke up, even though I was depressed and going through, I felt like, all right, now I got to start looking for what it is that I got to do out here. Because it's something. And to be honest with you, I didn't find my niche until like another year. Like, and when I say my niche, it's like my business under pressure washing and stuff like that. I didn't find that until another year. So after that incident or that awakening, I was working at Wawa.
Yeah.
I was mopping floors, cleaning them nasty bathrooms.
Yeah.
dealing with disrespectful people because I was working in Virginia.
Oh,
You know,
definitely disrespect.
So I was dealing with all types of racism
Yes.
and things that I didn't deal with back at home.
Right.
But I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet. My schedule at that time was, and this is crazy. My schedule at that time, I would work at Wawa, right? First of all, I was a substitute teacher. So I was do substitute teaching for like middle school. So that would be like 8 to 3. I would get to Wawa like around 3:30, right? I would work there till 10 o'clock. Then I worked from UPS overnight at UPS stocking the trucks from like 10:30 to 3:30 a.m. So like the only time I would get the rest was from like 4 a.m. to like 7:30. And then I had to be back at the substitute job. Already on an air mattress or on the floor, you know what I'm saying, not sleeping right, not eating right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but I was trying to do all this to sustain myself.
Right.
Right? When, to be honest with you, I could have put more trust in God and I could have moved differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could have moved differently, but it was so much that, you know, at that time, and this is a point too to anybody that's dealing with it.
Yeah.
If you notice, like the biggest times or the times that you are the most depressed and the enemy is pounding you the most is when you have really drifted away. You know what I mean? I can't speak for everyone.
Sure.
Right? I know people go through things like Job. He went through battles while he was being faithful. But I know, like, for myself, my most intense struggles come when I notice, wow, I haven't been to church in a while. Especially, you know, in school, I was not going to church.
Right.
Or like when you weren't praying like you were supposed to. That's when the biggest attacks come. And now you're sitting there feeling like, and it's a mind game too, the enemy uses. The devil is smart because I know with me, he made me feel like, man, you stayed away for so long, don't come back now.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Guilty.
yeah, now you want some help. And so when you have pride, you thinking to yourself like, nah, you kind of right. Like, God ain't gonna want to hear from me. Like, you know, I messed. I gotta deal with this on my own. But God is like, you are so little to me. You are my child.
Right.
I know you're going to mess up.
Right.
I know you're going
You
to
know
mess
what I mean?
up.
You're not comparable to me. You're not anything to me. So for you to even say, nah, I can't take your help. Who are you?
Right.
You know what I mean?
My
Like,
goodness.
He told Job that. He said, who made man? He told Moses that, who made man's mouth?
Right. Yep.
He told Job, were you there
Right.
when I
put
created the world?
Stars in the sky.
When I put the stars in, when
Were
I
you
did all this,
there?
he said, because for you to even ask me anything like that.
Right.
But I understand the questions.
Yeah.
He does too.
Yeah.
I was, man, I'm telling you, man, that story connects so serious with me, man, because
Yeah.
I thought I was losing my mind, bro.
Yeah.
man.
I really did. But it also is because we were never told that our parents or our loved ones went through it too.
yes.
Yeah. Right.
And the secret sometimes kills.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
When you don't feel that, when you feel you're the only one going through that.
Right. Right.
And I felt like I was on until one day my mother and father said, I've been through that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, huh?
Right.
I was like, and you're going to go through it again.
Yeah.
Maybe not as heavy because now you know.
Right.
But you're going to go through being depressed a little bit or things that not right or things. And then I talked to my sister and I talked to my brother-in-law and I cried like a baby.
Yeah.
I cried like a baby because I thought that I was the only one that was going through that. When the whole time, many are the afflictions of the righteous.
Yeah.
But the Lord
Yeah.
You know,
will deliver you out of them all.
With me, Mama, she helped me a lot. I remember one day, one of those weekends that I kept coming home before graduation. Mama, you know, when I come home, I talk to my mother more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Than Mama, but Mama would always be willing, but she kind of be like on the outskirts.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
But so you know, my mother was at work one time, and Mama was in her room, and I told you like I was just like even just scared to be by myself.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like floating around her room, and I came and sat on her bed one day, and she was sitting on her chair, and she was like, "Let me talk to you." And one of the conversations I'll never forget in my life. This was way before. I was probably 13.
Yeah.
Grandma talked to me about why I cry over spilled milk. She was like, "You complain so much, but why? I know what happened to you, but if it can't change what's going on, why?
Yes.
And so as a kid, that stuck with me. Why I cry over spilled milk. But when I got older, in this situation here, Grandma explained to me how after she had Uncle Tiger and y'all father,
Yep.
she had to leave
Mm-hmm.
DC. I don't know if y'all know that.
I remember.
And she had to go back to Ashland for like a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
She was on Valium pills
Yep,
because her nerves were so bad. She said she could not even see. She couldn't handle seeing a person outside. It would just make her so nervous and scared.
Yeah.
To the point she was a grown woman with 2 kids and a husband.
Yeah.
And she had to leave and go back home for 2 years to get herself together.
Yeah.
So, I'm not one like claiming things are hereditary.
Sure.
But when you have things that people in your family have dealt with,
Yeah, that's been
and you see them,
shielded and you didn't know about it until
right?
now. You're like, yeah.
and especially with
breaking those
us
things.
because we taught everything is the power of God gonna break everything.
Yes.
Break every chain.
Yep.
And you're like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna break every chain, but there's still things that I need to understand.
Yes.
How do I seek God during this
Yes.
time? Like, what does that look like?
What does it look like?
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so all of those things, like it's not explained to us. But I remember that day, she explained that to me, and I had a different respect for her. Like, we got closer that day. I'm like, wow, Mama, so you understand. She was like, you don't understand. I had to leave my family. She said I had to go back to Virginia. She said, I used to cry in my mom's arms. She said the doctors put me on pills. She said I would shake. She said I couldn't get things right. And I'm just like, how'd you come back? Like, how'd you come back and have 3 more kids?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and she was just saying, God.
Yeah.
She was like, it's not just God, because I hate when people say God.
Right, God did it.
But she was like, in time, you know what I'm saying? Getting myself off the Valium pills, trusting God,
Yes.
understanding that things weren't, as bad as they seem.
Yeah.
And the best piece of advice I got was from your father.
Yeah.
He said, accept whatever it is in your life. Because I couldn't even explain to him that my mouth was different and all of this. He said, whatever is going on with you, accept it. He said, it's not going to kill you.
Yep.
And I thought about it, and I'm like, I am different. You know what I'm saying? My jaw does feel different. My body does feel different, but it's a part of growing up. Like, it's not going to kill me. Like, I'm so used to being young, but these are some things that I'm going to experience.
Yes.
And it's causing my mind to trip out.
Right.
And since the devil already hates us anyway,
Right.
he's taking full advantage of that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
now, I'm already not as strong as I should because I'm not keeping up with prayer and this and that and the third.
Yes.
And now he's just having fun.
Yeah.
He's having a field day, but
It's crazy that it's not crazy, but it's so amazing that you say that, because when you make up in your mind to detach yourself from the devil, that's when he turns his assault on you. At first, he would let you go, even though you was going through things, but he really changes his attention to you when you make up in your mind, I want to serve God. I want to get back to this. And then God will show you where you were lacking, and then he will help you in that area. Because that happened to me. I thought I was okay in God, but no, I wasn't even scratching the surface.
Yeah.
But I did not know God until I had to go through with God.
I think that's a good place to end us, because I know, like, listen, we can be here all day, because me and my cousins, we'll talk for 4 hours, because it just be good and good and good and good. But, for us, again, throwing salt is not just about, every day, how God is taking you over the mountain and all that. We also talk about how God is the God of the valley and what that valley experience looked like, but how we can overcome. I mean, we also too just want to save space is that, through everything, my cousin is now a business owner.
Yes.
And we want to throw it up and lob it up and have him to talk about his business real quick, because we are super proud. And again, he out here. So you go ahead, take it away. Like, talk about that business.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. So my business name is Under Pressure Services.
Yes.
So we pressure wash houses.
Yes.
Concrete, property, boats, RVs. I detail cars, vehicles, and we paint as well. So superior service. Just give us a call and we'll come out and give you a quote, and and get you out the way for sure.
And that's the truth. We've used him several times, and my car has looked brand new.
Oh, yeah.
Every time. And I got 3 kids. Y'all know I talk about them kids every week. And my car is a dumpster, and he doesn't judge. He comes in and he sees what his work was the time before, and he sees it, and then but he does scold the kids. Like, Shiloh, y'all know better than this. So I appreciate it that we got accountability with his cousins, second cousins.
Yes.
But again, guys, we're so grateful that you came into the pod this week. We hope this was very beneficial for you and a blessing. It has been for us. It's opened our eyes about a lot of things, and it's helping even us to overcome. And so until next week, y'all know what to do. We want you to like, share, subscribe. Y'all know we own everything. We say it every week. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all these good things, YouTube, all these things. And so we want you to be a part of it. Connect with us. We'll throw up our Gmail as well. So send us some emails. If you have certain topics that you want us to kind of discuss or hit on, let's do that. If you want to connect in prayer, let's do that. If you want to know the Lord Jesus is your personal savior, we got you.
Yes.
So go ahead and do that as well. And until next time, unless you want to pray out.
Man, we definitely going to pray out, man, because look, it's always a strategy to overcome.
Yes.
But remember, put Jesus in the center of your strategy. In the center of your strategy.
Indeed.
And he will help you through every situation that you find yourself in. We're going to pray.
Yes.
Father God, in the name of Jesus Christ, God, we thank you for what we heard today.
Yes, God.
We thank you for our brother, Jeffrey, Lord God. Him telling his story, God.
Yes, God.
Thank you for allowing us to have this platform, Lord God, to just talk about life and about you. Lord God, give us the strategies. Connect us with the people. Connect us with the opportunities to overcome, God.
Yes.
We love you and we thank you for all things. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
So until next time, everybody.
Bye.
Preserved by my Redeemer, the Messiah and the leader. Belly full of living water, just in case you need a leader. Reflecting the overseer, protected, cause Lord, I need you. Can't let a day go by without giving the word a try. But what if I fall short and I'm in need of a friend to pick me up and help me start believing again? Continue fleeing from sin. Man, we just fishing for men who throwing salt. The perfect seasoning for the season. You win. You win.
Ain't got time to play around. Put some salt up on the ground. Throwing salt, throwing salt, throwing salt, throwing salt, throwing salt, throwing salt.